Welcome back, everybody. As promised, I am here to show you how you can go from second grade all the way to high school and use algebra from that second grade. So let's go. So I'm going to use iExcel's features, and I am showing right here a second grade assignment where you are using input and output for integers, okay? Where you are using the input and output feature that you use in high school algebra. Second grade. Remember, this is second grade. Okay, so here we go. So this is J6 in iExcel. So if you would like to get iExcel, I'm sure that there's all kinds of plans that you can sign up for. So this is an assignment for second grade. So what I like about iExcel too is I can write on the screen and so can your child. So it says the input is 17 and the output is 0. There's a difference in 17, right? So I can just simply type in 17. And if you get it incorrect, you can look at the explanation, right? So the input output table also shows subtraction. So I can do 18 minus 3, which is equal to 15. That's a 5. 19 minus 4, which is also equal. I just need to be super deliberate with my 5 for 15. And then 20 minus 5, equals 15. And then I can type that in, 15. One more. So this one shows addition. You definitely need to make sure that you are paying attention to the directions always, right? So 1 plus something is equal to 18. This is algebra. So let's put it in the context of algebra. It will be 1 plus x would be equal to 18. And doing it algebraically would be subtracting 1 from both sides. But you can guess and check first. So when we learn how to do algebra, we first start with guessing and checking, right? So you can clearly see that it would be 17, but if I did this algebraically, I would subtract 1 and I would get x equals 18 minus 1 is 17. And there you go. And then you can just add 17 to 2 and so on and so forth. Now remember, this is second grade. Okay? Now, I moved on to fourth grade. So now we're going to input output tables for fourth grade. Ready? So the difference between the second grade and the fourth grade, just look at the difference. Now we're just looking at a table. Some of the items are filled out in the output, the input and the output again. So we have an input and we need to find a rule, right? So if the input is 1, adding something, or I could be multiplying something. Okay, so I could be adding something or I could be multiplying something. Look at the table. Am I adding something or am I multiplying something? I think that we are multiplying something, but I'm going to actually write that out. So if I do 1, and I'm going to use parentheses because the sooner you add algebra into your vocabulary, I think it's the better. So we could use a dot also, and we would get 3, and then 2 times 3 is equal to 6. And then 3 times 3 is equal to 9. Ding, ding, ding. And then 4 times 3 is equal to 12. And so on. Okay, so we're going to try it. And it's okay if you get it incorrect. It's okay if I get it incorrect. Okay. Oops. Let's try that again. Oh, keyboard. Okay, so that would be 9. And then 6 times 3 would be 18. Also, I want you to pay attention to how much this is going up by. Each time it's going up by 3. That's another way you can check in algebra, okay? Let's do another one. So this time we need to know an input and an output. Okay, so if I have 12 and I end up with 5, I could be subtracting 7. But then with the 6, I would add the 7. Okay, so 12 minus 5 is 7. That's an equal sign. But then 6 plus 7 will give me that 13. Okay, and I'm writing it kind of in the order of the table. So let's give it a try. Now let's also see if 14 minus 7, right, would give us 7, would go in that spot. So 16 minus 7 would be 9, 18 minus 7 would be 11, and 20 minus 7 would be 13. So I got 13 here, right? 13. And then this would be 7. Let's give it a try. Let's do one more. So here we have 4 and we are going down to 2. So I'm going to guess that it's division by 2, right? Let's see. So here we have, let's just use 8. So 8 divided by something, and I could use the division symbols here since this is 4th grade level. Sorry, I need to take my my hand off of the iPad screen, and I divide that by something and I get 4. Or I could do 8 divided by x is equal to 4. That would be how we replace it with the algebraic expression. Okay. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Now, if I do this algebraically, and I'm going to keep it simple, I can cross multiply, right? So 8 times 1, and I'm going to use a dot. Well, maybe not. I'll use parentheses, equals 4x. And then I would divide everything by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is equal to x, and I would get 2 is equal to x, or I could rewrite it as x equals 2. Okay? So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 18 divided by 2 is 9. And this is how you just practice. You just keep practicing, okay? So next, I'm going to take it to the middle school level. So now we have 6th grade level, okay? We're doing the same exact thing, input, output. So here it says, which is the rule for this table? So I'm going from 20 to negative 19, and then negative 12 to negative 11. So now we have the integers and we have the number line using less than 0 side of the number line, right? So it looks like I would add 1, right? Because just think about it in your head. And this is what I tell students all the time. If you have the number line in your head and you have the negative numbers, so the ones that are on the left side of 0 and the numbers on the right side of 0, if I'm at negative 20 and I end up at negative 19, that means I move to the right by 1, which means I add 1. Okay? I'm actually going to do another one, and then I'm going to do one and get the incorrect answer on purpose so you can see how that works as well. All right, so the input for the first one, it says the rule is to subtract 4. Okay, so if the rule is to subtract 4 and I get negative 20, then that means that my first number should be 16. Is it negative 16? Yeah, because I'm subtracting. So I have a number here. I have a number here that's x, and it's equal to negative 20, right? And I'm going to subtract 4 from it, right? The algebraic way to do this is to add 4 to both sides. Sorry, the writing is my writing is already not the prettiest. I'm sorry, add 4, and I'm going to get negative 16. Okay, so the first one should be negative 16. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the one below. Oops, the one below. So I would have x minus 4 equals 14. And I would add 4 to both sides. And then you can start to do things in your head. All right, so then that would be 18. And then 7 minus 4, I can do that. I can actually do that in my head. 7 minus 4 is 3, and 9 minus 4 is 5. Okay. Don't really like that the table doesn't go in a perfect order. I think programs tend to do that to make things a little bit more tricky. And I don't really like that. But let's see. All right, now this one, oh, we only have one. So this is perfect for me to get incorrect. So it says, figure out the rule. So if I'm going from, let's keep it simple. So I would use one without negatives. That's the way I think in order to keep it simple. So if I'm going from 2 to 15, that would be, I would add 13, right? And 6 plus 13 is 19. So I know that it's 13, but let's say, if I take negative 14 and I add 13, right? And I accidentally get, I'm trying to think, 27. Like, so for, like, just for instance, I get it wrong, right? So if you if you type in, 27, you're going to get the wrong answer. Okay. And you get that little noise. And then they will show you what you typed in, right? And they will show you they'll show you. So what they'll do is they'll show you the correct answer, and then they'll show you why it's the correct answer. Okay, and they'll show you all of the steps. So the rule is to add 13. Okay. All right, and then you click got it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, just before you get to high school, what the input output has changed to. It has changed to domain and range. Okay. So what is the range of this function? It's just the output. So the range is the output. So all you do is look at the coordinates and you pick all of the coordinates that are just the second number. So I'm going to put x comma y here. This is the input. Sorry, the iPad wants me to write bigger. Input. And this is the output. Okay. So the output here is -3, -8, 6, and 2. -3, -8. And they put it in order, which I like, but they didn't put it in order in the question. So it'd be -8, -3, 2, and 6. They did not have that in order. Okay. Let's do one more. So what is the domain? So this is the input now. Okay. So the x value, and remember these coordinates are written in x comma y, right? And so the domain would be starting with -3, right? And there's only one that starts with -3. So -3, 5, 6, and 9. Okay. So now let's look at a graph. This is what the domain and range looks like on a graph. Okay. So the domain are all of the x values. Remember, so my x coordinate starts with -5. Then we go to -3. Then we go to 1. Then 2. So -5, I'm just looking for the one. -5, -3, 1, 2, and 3. So that would be this one. That's what it looks like to me. All right, now let's take it to the high school level. Okay, Now we're getting to the parent functions. I talked about parent functions before in a different video. And it's saying what is the domain of this function. So now you have to incorporate some things like Desmos or the Nspire calculator. Okay. But you also should learn to memorize or teach your children or your students to memorize some of the basic parent functions when they are in middle school, let's say 8th grade up to 9th grade, Algebra 1. Some 8th graders take Algebra 1 in middle school as well. So I'm going to graph this so you can see what it looks like on Desmos. So I'm going to graph this on Desmos so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to use the exact terminology, absolute value of x. Okay, so what this means is that no matter how much I zoom out, this graph goes on forever. So that means I can use any x value for this function. So this will be all real numbers. Okay. What is the range of this function? So notice that we start at 0, 0. And remember, if I tap on that dot, I can see that this function starts at 0 for the y value. Remember, this is the output value. And you can actually look at a table to see that it starts at 0, 0. And that's where the graph begins for the y values, okay? It begins for the x values as well, but the x is left to right and the y value is going up and down, okay? So we start at 0, 0. That means that the y value is greater than or equal to, right? Greater than or equal to. All right. And then the domain of this function, it's the same function. It just has a -4 in front of it. I don't even need to graph it. I can use any x for it. Same here for the range. It's going to be greater than or equal to 0 because it is the same type of function. It's just compressed by 3. And we'll do one more, same thing here, the domain. And remember, this is Algebra 1. We are not talking about Algebra 2 yet. So the domain is going to be all real numbers again. And now I'm going to go to Algebra 2. So I'm going to okay, so for this one, we are talking about what are the range and the domain. Okay, so the domain is all real numbers. All we're doing, so the domain is all real numbers. Okay, so the domain is all real numbers. So this is what happens, and this is where I think people, students especially, start to get confused. Now I have something that is subtracted from the absolute value, the parent function, and you have to know and be able to describe what happens when you subtract 4. All you do is all you're doing is taking the parent function and subtracting it by 4. So all you did was move it down. So do you see the old dots are there? All we did was shift this function down. So now we're starting at -4 opposed to 0. That's it. So the domain is all real numbers. I can use any x value for, I can plug in any x value and it doesn't matter. And then the range is going to be starting at -4. So it'll be this. My goals in these videos are to connect algebra through multiple subjects from the early grades to the higher grades. So I hope that you were able to connect with something that you learned in some class, whichever one. And as always, thank you for watching. See you next time.